So here we go, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Kings of Anglia Fan Social, the show where the KOA Army share their thoughts on all things town. And I hope you all had a good week. Of course, Kings of Anglia is proudly sponsored by Manscaped and Ginger Pickle. This week, I'm joined by Simon and Steve, all the way from Devon. Always a pleasure to have you guys on the podcast. As always, if you want to get involved in the Fan Social, game day, and all the other videos we do, contact me at RossMiniUK on Twitter. And great to get all your voices heard as much as we can. Let's go over to Simon, first of all, making his return. How are you, my friend?
Yeah, I'm all good. Thanks, Russ. Thanks for having me on again.
It's always a pleasure, my friend. And if you're watching on video, you are modelling a very beautiful away shirt. Let the listeners know, the viewers can see you. So, but yeah, the audio listeners in their cars.
Yeah, so I'm wearing the 2002, I think it was, sort of away or third shirt, the orange one, which Marcus Stewart, as we were just discussing, scored the 2 goals away at Bolton in. I was saying I was about 5 when this shirt came out, so I got the remake from Copper when they did that. Very, very nice shirt.
Indeed, man. Yeah, it's looking good. It's looking good. And the man that is joining us is Steve, our Devon correspondent, looking very sharp in the 3rd blackout kit from this season. And he's got a nice little backdrop. If you're watching on video, he looks very snappy. How you feeling, my friend?
Yeah, I'm all right, mate. Wearing my 3rd kit. Just thinking about going back to Saturday in the Milton Keynes game. And yeah, my background's not bad. I have this Portman Road sign up all the time. And every time I get on a meeting, people are like, what's all that about? And I have to tell them about the pod. And then we start talking about football, which is much better than talking about work. So
yes, definitely, my friend. And well, we've got a good 45 to an hour chat, all things town. Of course, we've got other podcasts for you guys to listen to. Of course, Track the Girls Talk, and of course, the main flagship show. But we've got a lot of cover. We're going to look back at February, and I'm going to do my standard 3 words to describe the month. It's just my go-to. So, Simon, Steve, 3 words to describe February. A month for draws, but an unbeaten month. We did get knocked out on the FA Cup by Burnley, but a very good professional performance against them. But Simon, how do you describe February in 3 words?
Yeah, I think the 3 words that came to me initially was just up and down. It's one of those months where there was some very good moments. Obviously, the game against Burnley, although the result wasn't great, the performance was excellent. Obviously, then you had Bristol Rovers in there, Cambridge was in there. Although we didn't lose those games, disappointing draws. A really exciting game against Sheffield Wednesday, which was a great game to watch for anyone who was there. And then obviously you've got the 2 wins at the end, which just about pull you upwards towards the top end and make you sort of have the good momentum and the good feelings going to the next month.
Yeah, definitely. I think we started the month not very good because of the Cambridge game. Then we went to Burnley and we thought, okay, this could be... And of course, we went 1-0 down and we thought, oh, God, here we go. This is going to be a bad day. But no, we got a quick equaliser and we did lose in the end. But yeah, Bristol Rovers game wasn't great. But then we got 2 good, solid performances against Forest Green and MK Dons. And as you said, up and down is probably good words to use. Steve, I know you're a good man with words. What are you going to go with?
I know some words. I'm not sure whether I'm a good man with words. Couple of them that you've kind of mentioned in the start there. So unbeaten is a good starting point. I think belief. The last couple of results, we've gone quite a few draws and then back into some wins, and that's built momentum. So unbeaten, belief, and momentum going forward. So if you can hear my dog in the background, which you might be able to hear, he's going mental. I think he wants to join the pod, but
bring him on. Benson for with Heath.
Yeah.
He jumps in and snores and does a bit of woofing as well. Barking.
He's got a bit of wind as well, Benson, isn't he? He's
got a bit of wind. Yeah, a little bit. So. Yeah, that's all good, my friend. But yeah, I think unbeaten, belief, up and down. That was the month of February, and February is such a quick month. January, February, always they're 2 months that you just want to get over with, and thankfully we are over that now. We are over the hump. We're now in March. But Simon, who would be your player of the month? Some players stepping up, scoring some goals. Of course, it's the first month for the new signings, Broadhead, George Hurst. To really get into it, Massimo Luongo played a few minutes as well. And, of course, Harry Clark as well. But who's your player of the month? Nathan Broadhead won it for the club, but who's getting yours?
I would probably have gone with Leif Davis if it had been up to me. I think he certainly, again, it's a month that's kind of awkward. You sort of split it in two parts. I think first half, I don't think anyone was really having a particularly good moment, but I think towards the end, I certainly think Leif Davis, certainly the last couple of games, has looked back to his marauding best. But I think Sammy Morsy as well, who is routinely excellent to the point that fans possibly forget how good he is. But then he comes up with a moment like he did at MK Dons, and you sort of think, yeah, that's why he's there every time, every game. One of our best performers, one of our standouts throughout. But for me, just about Leif Davis, I think should have got it. But Broadhead has had an excellent month as well, so don't want to discredit him too much.
Yeah, definitely. Steve, who's getting your vote, and maybe mention a few other players. As someone rightly said, the first few games of this month, it was very there's not many players sort of maybe would have come out of those games playing really well, but yeah, I think at the end of this month we got some good results, some good goals, clean sheets as well. So the back three, back four, we'll be pretty happy with that. But yeah, your choice and just any other names you want to mention.
Well, my choice was Leif, same as Simon. Really, I think he's been really, just back to his best and just quality down the left. Never stops running, never puts in a bad performance. Delivery's good. Could have scored at MK. I think he's a really, really good player. How on earth we got him earlier on in the season for what we paid for him is beyond me. But I think for the new players, Broadhead obviously got Player of the Month, but he's been excellent. Watching him in the flesh, as it were, at MK, his touch is just amazing. You think got some players like Morsy and Chaplin who've got really good touch. Broadhead's touch is top draw. The player I kind of, if I pick one left field, and it is a new signing, although he has played for us in previous years, is Luongo. Every time he's come on, he's looked, considering he hasn't played, he was at Borough, he's not played for Borough. And he's coming to us, he played probably about 90 minutes now in sort of sub appearances. He just looks, he is Morsy's double, isn't he? You have him on the pitch, sometimes you can't tell the difference. They play so much alike. But yeah, he's just a quality player, Luongo. I think going into the back end of the season, taking that load off Humphreys a little bit, with Ball and Pan being out, I think Luongo could be a really, really important player for us second part of the season. So they're my two. Leif for player of the season and Luongo for his impact.
I think the other thing with Luongo is you've got the issue of Sammy Morsy's suspension is still hanging like an axe for another 4 games at least. And it just sort of makes that feel less of an issue. If we're thinking there, saying it's Cam and you're sort of struggling to pick anybody else to play with him, I think the Luongo one could be massive in that environment. The only other name I would throw out there is Christian Moulton, because at the start of this month, I think there was a little bit of criticism coming in that he hadn't quite hit his levels. But I think penalty save at Cambridge, made a fantastic double save at MK Dons, and as you say, the team getting back to clean sheets, I think will be vital in the run-in. So great to see him sort of coming back into some form as well.
Yeah, definitely. And as you actually mentioned about Sam Moore's suspension, boys, do you reckon can he, I think that's game 37. I think that's when the deadline goes. Do you reckon he will be able to?
Got 4 games to sort of hang on. He's just clever, isn't he, Morsy? He kind of puts the pressure on, puts the tackles in, gets a yellow here and there, and then as soon as the pressure's on and you think he's going to get suspended here, he kind of eases off, but it doesn't affect his performance. It's almost like he kind of knows it's going to happen. Well, there was some stats I think when he did it. He did it for Wigan, where he had like 9 or 10 games he had to go without a booking and managed it. The suspension dropped off, and then he went. First game back, he got booked. So he's just a clever player, really, really clever player. He knows how to play the game. So.
Yeah, I think you see that by the fact he very rarely gets second yellow cards. He knows exactly where the line is. He knows exactly how to play right up to it. And basically, if you just tell him to play like he's starting every game on a yellow card, I think that's fine because he can do it. You've seen him do it so many times for us for long periods. Like he'll get booked in the first 5-10 minutes, and the rest of the game he won't put a foot wrong. So, no, I think he can do it. It's just you always know that he could just get one. It's one of those things. doesn't take much to get a yellow
Get a
card
red
these
mist,
days.
does he? I think that's the thing with Morsy. He doesn't seem to get worked up. There's players we've had in the past who, will be a red card walking half the time. Doesn't seem to get affected by the game when things are going on around him. He doesn't lose his head and go diving in. He's just consistently strong. He's sort of good at that role of giving away a niggly foul on the halfway line that is never a yellow card, but is really subtly good for the team. Yeah,
it's one of those, like Fernandinho was great at that for City. Like he just seemed to just clip you, not enough to be a yellow, but enough to stop you running in behind him, sort of thing. So I think Morsy can do that as well.
I think it's Gilberto for Arsenal was the same, wasn't it? Very similar type of player. Just broke the play up. Always you think he's on a tightrope, but never actually got to a point where he was getting sent off. So.
Yeah, I think he's good with the ref as well. I think there's been a few times he does have a chat with the ref, but he's, I think, very smart with it. I think, once again, he's a cool sort of character, even though he can be intense, but I think maybe he knows what he's going to say, and he knows the proper words to sort of say to the referee. But yeah, we shall see. And of course, it was great to see him score on the weekend, a very good goal. We want to see more of that, of course. I think there's a lot of, good old Hutchie on £1 million picks. He was, betting the Morsey's score, but that was his first goal in a while. I think his last goal, he couldn't get it up, was the game against Charlton when we were the 4-4, the crazy result. And of course, the other goals were against Barnsley and Forest Green. So he hasn't scored that many this season, but it was good to see him score, which is good. All right then, boys, it's time for the hotly debated discussion on the Ipswich Town timeline at the moment. Wes Burns. Now, he's had some, I'd say, unfair criticism this season. Okay, he's not been the Wes Burns of old from last year, but he's still got the numbers. He's still playing well here and there. Okay, he's not consistently playing well, but where are you at, Simon? Where are you at with Wes Burns, and in terms of what sort of side are you on?
I think it's a really difficult one for me at the minute because I love Wes Burns. You love what he's done. He's been so good for such a consistent period of time, over a year and a half. He's been very good, but the performances recently for me haven't been up to his standard. And for me, it's not so much about the numbers because he still contributes in games every so often, and he still has moments, particularly in the big games. You see him; he seems very up for the big moments. He scores against Sheffield Wednesday. He scores against he didn't against Plymouth. He did, and a couple of others. He seems to enjoy those big occasions. For me, the big issue with him is he doesn't seem as positive when he gets the ball anymore. When he has his man one-on-one, he seems to want to come back inside rather than, remember last season, he just burst past people. No one could touch him. And yes, there's some factors for why he's not doing that. He gets doubled up more because last season teams worked out that was our only threat to goal. We've got a threat on the other side now, so then not as much of the play is funneled through him. But his performance for me haven't been there. And I think Caden Jackson has shown little flashes from the bench that he deserves a go at some point. And no one should be undroppable in the team. I mean, that's just true of the squad as a whole. If your performances aren't to the level we need them to be, there has to be a question asked there. But I don't think he's a terrible footballer. I don't think we're anywhere near that as a concept. But I would like to see Caden given a go, given the flash he's shown from the bench, I think.
Yeah, I think, Steve, that was one of the big sort of discussion points for the Bristol Rovers game. I think people thought that was a perfect game for Caden Jackson to start, but he didn't. Wes Burns started, and yeah, I think Caden didn't come on. He did come on at some point, but yeah, where are you at with Wes Burns and just the whole conversation that he's been about him?
I think it's a bit unfair. You can hear fans in the ground when he gets the ball, and I totally agree with Simon. He's not got that burst of pace that go past a fullback, which he had last season. I think part of it is because teams have kind of worked him out and realised they've got to double up or sometimes even triple up on him because he's got pace and he's got a trick to get past and he's good at delivering the ball. That kind of limits his options when he's going forward. I also don't think that the fact that he missed the opportunity to go with Wales to the World Cup has kind of dented his confidence a little bit. There's flashes of it when he gets the ball and you think, oh God, just go for it. Whereas you're far better than League One quality. But he just seems to be lacking a bit of self-belief at the minute, which is a shame because on his day, he's excellent. He really is. I mean, his number, considering everyone's kind of picking up on his, his performances this season. As you say, Ross, he scored. He got 5 goals, 7 assists? I mean, it's not bad. It's not bad, and he had a goal and 2 assists in the FA Cup. So he's having a decent season stat wise, but I just think he's kind of been constrained a little bit by teams finding us out, and that's not just Wes. That's across the board. We've had games where we get the usual part of the bus, low press. It's just not helpful, and that I think has impacted the swapping around between JD and Harry Clark as well behind him. Possibly has unsettled him a little bit because he was flying with JD last year. Although I would say Clark is a significant upgrade, I think, on JD, although I love JD. So I think it's a bit unfair. It's frustrating because I think fans get annoyed with it because they know how good he is and how good he can be. So then when he's not delivering it week in, week out, people get a little bit frustrated. But I'd have him in my team every single week. Caden has been good. I mean, he was good when he came on the other day against Milton Keynes, but I think between the two of them, I would definitely have Wes Burns.
Yeah, I'm not saying that Caden's a better footballer or that Burns wouldn't have a look in. I just think that Caden Jackson would probably just be thinking, what do I need to do to prove more that I deserve a shot, given Wes hasn't quite hit his levels. I think the Harry Clark thing is interesting because he's more progressive than Donatian. You do wonder if he sort of takes some of Wes's space away, given he's flying around him, taking that opportunity to get forward. Well, that's a space that Wes would have been operating in last season, and Genoy not quite as up and pressing in that area, so he probably would have more space to operate in. But as you said, I think Harry Clark for the squad as a whole is better, but maybe not personally for Wes Burns.
Yeah, it's a fair point.
And maybe this discussion has been made because, Wes hasn't scored, say, since the Plymouth game. I don't know when the last time he got an assist. I haven't got that stat on hand. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen. But maybe it's why. Just maybe this month he hasn't been sort of seen up and down the flank. He hasn't been the same old Wes Burns. But sometimes some players are just up and down, just like Town's month in February. But I think he's going to be a key player, hopefully, for the rest of this season, going into the big games. And as you said, Simon, he'll be up for hopefully the big games against Bolton, Barnsley this month. So bring it on, and we shall see. And that's just the standard football thing, I think, for every football club. I think we mentioned this on the main pod about scapegoats. I don't know if that's the right word, but what's your thoughts on that? Just players, everyone just sort of earmarks, they're not been good enough, they should be starting. It happens everywhere. Simon, what's your thoughts on that?
I mean, it's definitely a thing. I mean, I'd say Genoy is probably a prime example at Ipswich for a long period. I mean, he was certainly for the first part of his career given torrid abuse from a lot of people, and then suddenly his performance seemed to get better. There seemed to be a weight lifted from him, and I think it boils down to confidence. The players want to feel the crowd is on their side, and we need to show them that love in the stadium. Yeah, behind closed doors, in the pub, you have whatever conversation you want. When they're on the pitch, when you're in the stand, you don't want to hear those negative comments. You want fans to be behind them. Don't want anything online. Just keep it personal, I suppose. And Wes will find it again. I've no doubt about that. He seems a very strong-headed character, and he just needs a bit of confidence. And I think McKenna will know that, and I think he'll find that from him again. But it's important that fans sort of stick with him through that period because, as I say with Genoy, you see what can happen if you stick with someone through the tough moments. They can suddenly give you the performances that you were crying out for during the sort of bad spells.
Of course, that was Paul Lambert who just went, don't like him. But then Genoy is been here longer than Paul Cook, Paul Lambert combined. So there we go. And Steve, another player really, is Freddie Ladapo. Once again, he's very 50-50 with, the Town fan base. Some people think, he's not good enough. But then he goes and scores the amount of goals he scored this year. Of course, some of them have been in cup games, but that's another sort of scapegoat maybe player.
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of on that page when we first signed him because the first couple of games I was like, I'm not really sure he's an upgrade on what we had at the time. But since the more games he plays, I mean, he is good when he starts. He's definitely better when he starts than when he comes on as a sub. But he's a really, really good player, Freddie. I know we've got Hurst come in, and there's that battle between Hurst and Freddie. either of those two players, I would be quite happy to put up front. I think Freddie's he's good at holding the ball up. He likes to get a shot off. His header against Forest Green, was it Forest Green where he just stuck wide with his head, which is a little bit disappointing, which was quite good for me because I had a 4-0 win on my bet, and if we just stuck that in, it would have been 5-0, so I'd have lost. But paid for my ticket to go to MK. But yeah, I like Freddie. I've got a lot of time for him. I think he's a very, very good player. Whether he would be in our starting lineup if we were to go up, I'm not sure. But I think of as a League One target man, and that's essentially what McKenna likes to play. He likes to play one up top. I think he's a really good signing. Really good signing.
I mean, I think you sort of look at his goals this season compared to, we had sort of 4 strikers last season. I mean, obviously Macaulay Bonne had a crazy run at the start, but then fell away. He had, I think, 12 league goals or something over the course of the season. I think Freddie's got 11 already. There's 13 games to go. So he's going to outscore all the strikers from last season. So you've got to say that's an upgrade if you look at it purely based on the numbers of goals, which is what strikers are judged on for a large quantity of their work. But he does a lot of great work as well without the ball, which is what I think let the likes of Macaulay Bonne and James Norwood down, is when the ball was sort of fed into them. They didn't fit that style of play to bring others into the game, to link the play with the midfield. I don't think that was their natural game. And I don't think it was Freddie's when he came in, but he's certainly shown that improvement over the course of the season. It'd be interesting to see how him and her sort of dovetail in the last sort of 13 fixtures.
Yeah, definitely. We'll bookmark this striker talk because, of course, we're going to be talking about the Burton game later on in the podcast, and that will be one of my questions, sort of spoiler alert. We're going to be talking about who is Stephen Simon going to pick to start up front against Burton. Will it be George Hurst or Flair Dapo? But we're going to have a little pause here, and it's time for the strike. Stephen Simon going head-to-head. Who will be crowned champion this week? And as always, pens and paper at the ready. Get involved at home, wherever you're listening to. 4 questions plus tiebreaker is standard. And first question is on Tyrone Mings, who celebrates his birthday this month. And now, can you remember what shirt number did he wear at Town first of all? So, of course, he became number 3 when Cresswell left. But what was his first squad number? Was it 12, 15, or 18? 12, 15, or 18? And, of course, if you get it right, 1 point. So, there you go, Tyrone Mings. Yeah, what a journey he's gone on, though, hasn't he? Yeah. Playing for England after joining from us from Chippenham. Unbelievable. But what do you reckon then, boys? 12, 15, or 18?
I went for 18.
18.
Wow, you're both wrong. It's actually 15. It's 15. So there we go. Of course, if it was Bono or Harvey Davis, they'll know it because they're the squad numbers guys. But yeah, there we go. So no points there to start off the strike. Question 2 is on good old Colin Healy, the Irishman, who of course had Cesc Fabregas in his pocket in the Arsenal Carling Cup semi-final at Portland Road. Of course, the 1-0 win. He set up Thomas Priskin for the goal. Now, he's the current manager of which Irish club? Is it Cork City, Shelbourne, or Shamrock Rovers? But yeah, current manager of one of these teams in Ireland. I think since 2018, I think was the stat. So there we go. So Cork City, Shelbourne, or Shamrock Rovers. And sort of a little fun fact, he actually signed for Town from one of these clubs. So there we go. What do you reckon then? Simon, Steve, who are you going for?
Put Shelbourne. Didn't have a clue.
Cork.
And the correct answer is Cork City. So Steve has taken the lead. And of course, yes, joined Town from Cork City back in 2009. I don't know the correct date. That doesn't matter. No one really cares because it's question 3 time. And question 3, from one midfielder to another, what is Roger Osborne's middle name? Of course, the FA Cup goal-scoring hero. Is it Charles, Henry, or William? As you know me, I love my middle names. Always a standard strike question in these days. And yeah, Roger celebrates his birthday this month. Good old Roger Osborne. Is it Charles, Henry, or William? So is it Roger, Charles Osborne, Roger, Henry Osborne, or Roger, William Osborne? And when I found out his middle name was sort of like an old-style English name, I had to go through the the kings we've had in England. So I've gone, I've gone for all of the three sort of kings we've, had. Of course, we've got Charles now as the king of England and all that jazz. But what do you reckon then, boys? Simon needs to get this right to go to the tiebreaker. Let's see.
I said William.
Okay. Both gone William. The correct answer is actually Charles. Roger Charles Osborne. So, Simon, it's all still to play for. Because if you get this right, it goes to a tiebreaker. But if Steve gets it right, then he wins. But, of course, tiebreaker, gamble. Let's see if he does that. Question 4 is on a goalkeeper. Neil Alexander also celebrates his birthday this month. And I've probably done this question on strike before, but as you know, I'm lazy. But how many clean sheets did he keep in 31 games? Of course, he had only that one season, or not even one season at the club. He was there just for half a season and then went back to Rangers. I think when Rangers came calling, he was always going to go, wasn't he? But he left in January. But he played 31 games in total, cup and league competitions. But how many clean sheets in 31 games? Of course, now,
Great
actually, Simon.
Take.
Yeah, penalty, yeah. Simon, if you get this bang on, my friend, you get 2 points. So you could actually win. But if Steve gets it bang on, he wins by 3-0. But if he gets it right, he just wins 2-0. But we'll see. We'll see. And if you, of course, just get it right, Simon, it'll go to a tiebreaker anyway. But anyway, enough of me rambling. Boys, what do you reckon? 31 games. How many clean sheets?
I said 12.
12. Okay.
Oh, that's miles higher than me. I went 5.
5. I've just got to do my maths quickly. It's 8 is the correct answer.
No, so 5 wins it just.
Oh, so Steve has won it. There we
Stuck
go,
it
Steve.
in off the post.
Stuck it in the post there. But 8 out of 31. I don't know. I thought he weren't a bad goalie, Neil Alexander.
No, I liked him. I remember him when I was younger. As I say, the penalty saves. He saved like 3 or 4 penalties in his very short spell with us.
Yeah. Yeah, but I don't know. At that time, I think I forgot what season that was now. Was that under Jim? Under Jim Magilton?
Would have been Magilton era, yeah, I'd have thought. It was the year before we signed Kevin Nisbey. So yeah, it was 7-ish. 06, 07.
07 or 8.
Still pretty good though.
It's not too bad, yeah, if you think about that season, because Jim's side, we're never known to we've scored goals, but we did concede goals. But yeah, not bad stat. Not bad stat. Well, Steve, the burning question is here: are you going to gamble, my friend?
Always going to gamble.
Always going to gamble. Gamble responsibly, of course. Gamble responsibly. But as you proven, Steve, you were able to pay your MK ticket because betting 4-0, and thankfully Freddie Dapo didn't score.
There's a story around the 4-0, and I'm going to share this story because for the Southwest fans, they'll love this. So, in our Southwest supporters group, we've got a guy in the group, Graham, who every single week bets 4-0, and it is now collectively known as a Graham. So every week, people asking in the chat, what's the score going to be? The amount of people that say it's got to be a Graham, it's got to be a Graham. So now it's not a 4-0, it's a Graham. So if anyone's betting on Ipswich, bet responsibly. But if you are, and you put a 4-0, that is now collectively known as a Graham. So little Southwest story for you.
Really good. And of course, we've had 2 4-0s in the last few months. And of course, we had a 4-0 against Buxton. Does cup games count as well? Do you
any game doesn't matter.
Any game
doesn't matter.
There we go. Yeah, we've had of course we had a 3-0 against Oxford on Boxing Day. So we've been close to many Grahams, but so there we go. Now the tiebreaker is not on someone called Graham, but it is on Tommy Smith. Now, Simon, a chance. You've got to, of course, get it bang on to win. But how many goals did Tommy Smith score in 267 games? Of course, he was known for him and Christoph Berra and even Luke Chambers. They scored a few goals, didn't they, in a couple of seasons under Mick McCarthy? They were known as the defenders who scored from headers, and they just scored goals. Of course, Tommy Smith scored a very good goal once against Brentford, didn't he? A little half volley on Boxing Day, which was a great day down there. But in 267 games, how many goals did Tommy Smith score? Just going to quickly get the answer up, just in case I've got it wrong. No, okay, I've got it. Steve, of course, you can play as well. You start off, Steve. What are you going for?
18.
18, okay.
I put 11.
11. Oh, you're not backing Tommy. 23. 23 goals, Tommy Smith.
It's about 1 in 10. It's pretty good for a defender.
Not too bad, yeah. I think so. In the 2012-2013 season, he scored 4 goals. 2013-14, he scored 6. And then, of course, the playoff season, he scored 5. So he had a good little period there, 3 seasons, scoring a good amount of numbers. And then there's other seasons, he scored 3 and 3. And then his final full season, he scored 2 goals. So not great numbers there. But 23 goals in 267 games, not too shabby. So to say, Simon, Steve has won. Steve, you gambled, and you still are the champion this week. A speech as always.
I'd like to thank Graham for his inspiration to go for that. I mean, I think I've only ever won the strike once, which is a little bit of a sad state of affairs. But yeah, pleased. Good, solid performance the whole way through. Taken to the wire. And won by a goal off the post. So happy with that.
You won 3-0. You won 3-0, so you didn't get a Graham in this strike. But
well, yeah, it doesn't matter.
Still 3 points. There we go. Then. Still 3 points in the bag. There we go. All right then, boys. Well, that is a strike done and dusted. Hope everyone at home enjoyed it. Let us know how you got on. Now, today is Well Book Day. So I thought, let's talk about some books, which is probably the last thing you ever thought that come out of my mouth, talking about books, but I'm a bit of a bookworm. I do like to read a book here and there, maybe not as much as I should, but I just want to know, what's your favourite book? Sport related. We're sporty boys here, so I'm sure there's sport biographies or just general sports books. So Simon, any books you could recommend the listeners, or any other books out there for you?
Yeah, I mean, there's a sort of thing about sports books today. You sort of mentioned it. The Damned United was one I loved to read when I was younger. I mean, I know it's not true, really. A lot of the story in it is fictional, but it gave a great sort of indication of Brian Clough, who's one of my sort of favourite characters in football. I've read his autobiography as well, which is a cracking read if you haven't read it, full of great stories and how he tells a story of how Rome wasn't built in the day, but he wasn't on that particular job. So it's typical sort of Brian Clough mannerisms throughout, which are really, really good to sort of get that insight from, particularly for someone like me who obviously wasn't live when he was sort of in his sort of imperious best work. So it's really good to read that sort of storyline from him. He's a really good character and a great story writer as well, biography writer as well.
Definitely. Steve O2, I want to quickly share, of course, like the town-related one. I've read a few, of course, Boy Robson and Kieran Dyer's got a really good one as well. And I was lazy with Kieran. I listened to it during lockdown and COVID, and I said I listened to it. I actually didn't read it. I actually just listened to it because, of course, there's some books you can. They've got audio versions, and that's what I used to do. I used to go for a walk and just listen to it, and that's lazy, but that's a very good book. Definitely recommend. And of course, his backstory and everything like that is, wasn't great, but yeah, it's just a good read. So I recommend that as a town read. And there's of course a few other ones out there for town fans, of course, Kevin Beattie's and all that stuff. But yeah, Steve, any you would recommend?
Yeah, just touching on the Cloughie thing, really. I think one Cloughie's last game against Ipswich at Portman Road, because I was at that match, and I just remember him wearing the typical green sweatshirt that he always used to wear, and he was quite ruddy faced right at the end of his career. He got a fantastic reception by the town fans on that game. I think Keane was playing for Forest on that day, from what I remember. But going back to books, I've got two. I've got a non-sport related and a sport related. So my non-sport related is A Short History of Nearly Everything by Bill Bryson. I absolutely love Bill Bryson. He is just such a great storyteller. And The Short History of Nearly Everything is, it literally is everything. It's just a brilliant read. Couldn't put it down. Took it on holiday, read the lot in a week. Really, really good book. Like all of his stuff, really. Tales from a Small Island and all that sort of stuff. So that one I would highly recommend. And sports related, it would be, and they turned this into a film. I'm quite a big baseball fan. The picture behind me there is Fenway Park, which is Boston Red Sox, which is my team. But there's a book by Michael Lewis called Moneyball, which they turned into a film with Brad Pitt. and the other guy, the comedian or the
Jonah Hill.
Yeah, Jonah Hill. Yeah, fantastic book. Really, really good sort of story of using stats to win games. And if you know anything about baseball is a very stats focused sport. And it's just the way that the guy used all that data to kind of influence players they brought in that no one else would touch because of, history of them or whatever. And he just brought them in knowing that they could perform on that level. So that's a really, really good book. It's quite hard to get him. If you can try and find it on Amazon, it's quite hard to find in paperback, but you can get it in hardback. But it's well worth a read, particularly if you're into American sport, which I am.
The Moneyball thing is interesting because it's essentially the model Brentford used in their player recruitment for a long period, and that's why they sort of are great at buying low and selling really, really high, because they sort of take punts on players that other teams had sort of missed or glossed over. So it's the way football's going as well. So I think as much as it started in baseball and American sports, I think football is going more and more in that direction and will continue to do so.
I think that's where Mark Ashton's dashboard comes from, doesn't it? I mean, similar sort of thing. He's looking at stats and all the data in the background before they're looking at sort of picking players to join the squad. So yeah, two good books. I think I've read the Bryson one 3 times, and every time you read it, you learn something new. When you go if you sat in a pub somewhere and someone asks you a question, you tell them a fact, they go, "Where the hell do you know that?" Most of those are from that book, just random stuff. But it's well worth reading, and it's an easy read as well. So
sounds good. I may find myself that book, Stephen, and read it myself. The next question I was going to ask quickly before we get into, of course, a month predictions, March predictions, and looking at Burton. Out of the town squad, who do you reckon reads the most? I know Sam Morsy, I think he's really into his leadership, maybe dictators sort of books. I think he's been pictured a few times with just leaders and stuff like that. Books. I forgot which book it was now in particular. But any other players do you reckon are bookworms in the squad? Of course, these days it's modern day technology. A lot of people on their phones and stuff like that, and probably playing games and stuff. But any bookworms do you reckon in the squad? I think, one player I think was surprised. I think Vaclav Lanky, the goalie. I don't know why I decided to pick him out. I know because I can't say his name really well. But I don't know. I just feel like he could be one who likes to read. But any other players? Sonny Aluko, maybe Shawnee Aluko. Sorry.
Yeah, I can see Shawnee. I think Janoy, you sort of go for the people with the calm demeanors, don't you? Seeing that when you picture people reading. So I think those guys, Janoy Danassian, I think probably can see him sitting down with a good book or something and having a relaxed, chill time. Maybe someone like Connor Chaplin as well. Just can see it sort of taking the time to do that.
I reckon McKenna likes a good book.
Yeah. McKenna definitely.
Yeah, he's studious in the way that he thinks about the game, and I'm sure he likes to pick up a good book, even if it's not football related. But yeah, I would have gone for JD as well. I think he would be. If these lads actually listen to this podcast, they'd be all sat. I bet they're all sat in the training ground listening to it, going, "There's no way JD is reading the most books." There's probably one that we've not even thought about. Who does it? It's probably Freddie or something like that. Yeah. Who likes a good read.
Well, I think the thing is that they got a lot of town fans do a lot of travelling, around the country, and I'm sure you need to find some way to pass time, and reading is sometimes the best thing to do. And if you definitely get yourself a good book and a good selection, then you're set for the season, hopefully. So there we go. So well book day. Hope you celebrated it, and we're bringing it here on Fan Social. So hope you've enjoyed.
Dress up, like parents get their kids to dress up for book day. That's like my missus was amazing at that. She used to have fantastic costumes for my youngest and my eldest. And now they're a little bit older, they don't have to do it anymore. But you should have got us to dress up.
Yeah, should have done. Yeah, who would you dress up as? I'll get you dressed up as Brian Clough. Simon, you're just dressed as Marcus Stewart. When he scored the 2 goals at Bolton. So there we go. Yeah,
take that.
Yeah, like it. I like it. All right then, boys. Well, let's look into March then. Some big games, 15 points up for grabs, 5 games, a lot of home games actually, which was good. 3 home games, 2 away games, Burton at home, Accrington at home, under lights, but Bolton away, a big game. It's not the Reebok anymore, is it? It's got the Macron or University
It was the University of
Bolton
Bolton for a
Stadium.
while.
University of Bolton, yeah.
But we all know it's the Reebok. I used to love calling it Reebok. I'm going to call it that for whatever. That's my reason. Then a Shrewsbury at home, and then Barnsley away at Oakwell to end the month. A very big game indeed. 15 points up for grabs, guys. How many points do you reckon Town will get? Simon, your thoughts on the 5 games?
I mean, I think the thought for me, main thought is you got to win those home games to take the pressure off the big away games. I know we talk about Burton potentially coming to this game in a little bit of form. I think 4 wins from 6 or something. Accrington, that you just have to win that game. But Shrewsbury, Burton, Accrington, yes, all right, they're decent sides at League One. We can't be fearing sides like that if we really have our sights set on promotion, which is the goal. You just have to win those games. We can't be talking about trying to make excuses of their better side, doing the McCarthy thing of they're in false positions, whatever. Town need to go with that swagger of we should beat those sides, and then split that with the 2 away games, which are the 2 toughest fixtures of the month by some margin. If you then got 1 point, 2 points from those, that's actually not a bad return. That's 10 points over the course of 5 games, 10, 11 points. If you could win one of those, suddenly you talk about it being a really, really good month. If you got sort of 12 points from 15 those 2 away games. So for me, the home games are probably more crucial, and then away games almost become a bit of a hit to nothing and take your pressure off and go and play with the freedom. Because we can win those games, it's just going to be more difficult.
Yeah, Steve, what's your thoughts going into these games? As the home games are the big ones in terms of getting 3 points, maximum points against them, and then the 2 away games are going to be 2 teams who are fighting playoffs with us. I think a lot of people are saying the top 6 is the top 6 at the moment, but who will finish where is the question. But what's your thoughts?
I think 2 wins on the bounce leading into this, to the next 2 home games is massive. I can see us winning beating Burton and beating Accrington. I think we'll be on a run of 4 straight wins, which will be, the expectation will be through the roof, and everyone will be getting a little bit heady and maybe a little bit beyond themselves. But I think potentially the Bolton game. I mean, Bolton didn't have a good result the other night, but I think that will end up a draw. I think we'll go to the Reebok, and it'll end up as a draw. I've got a sneaky feeling we're going to draw against Shrewsbury, which kind of doesn't really sit that well with me, because we should be turning them over for another home 3 points, and then we've got the Barnsley game. So I think 2 wins, then 2 draws, and I've got a sneaky feeling the Barnsley one will be a defeat, and then I think the wheels will fall off on the fan base at that point, because to go from 4 wins, 2 draws, unbeaten in 6 or 7 at that point, and then to lose to Barnsley, and it wouldn't surprise me if Norwood scores. That's just, it's written, isn't it? He's going to get a goal. So I think we'll probably end up with 8, but we should realistically come out of that with probably 10. I would think.
I think 10 is probably the benchmark for a good return. I think below that you're disappointed. Above that is a superb return. I think that for me is sort of your benchmark figure of what you, because that's the 2 points a game, isn't it? To get promoted, 5 games, 10 points. So that's what Town's going to be looking. I mean, Town should be thinking 15 inside the squad internally with the confidence and the quality of players they've got. There's no reason they can't win all of those games, but they are difficult and teams are difficult. We've seen that throughout. So, it'll be interesting to see. I think, weirdly, some of those away games might suit us a bit more with the teams coming out, giving us a bit more space. But they've got real quality. And I think we saw that against Sheffield Wednesday. When 2 good teams go at it, it will be 2 pretty good fixtures, I think, those 2 away games.
I think we'll probably all be, I mean, we are at the minute, aren't we? We're all looking at sort of Sheffield Wednesday and Argyle and how, those results go. Argyle losing 5-2 at the weekend was hilarious. That made my weekend. It's the first time in weeks I've been able to text my mate and say, your WhatsApp not working today? You've not sent me a text message about the football. So that potentially is something we're going to be looking at if Argyle do end up going on this, wobble that everyone seemed to think they would have at some point. They haven't had one yet. This might be the point where they start to have a little bit of one. So if we can get a couple more wins, that really puts the pressure on.
I think if you look at Argyle's next couple of games, they've got a couple of tough fixtures in there as well. Yeah. So I think it's, again, when we talk about the next two are so important, because if you win both those and Argyle drop even 2 or 3 points in those fixtures, suddenly we're talking about a 2-point gap to Plymouth. And the momentum, suddenly Town are coming up like a train, and Plymouth are suddenly the ones sweating in their position like we were earlier in the season with Sheffield Wednesday coming behind us. So hopefully this is the month where Town build the momentum. I think ultimately it's the back end of this month and the start of next month that will determine where Town finish, because we've got those, not just those 2 away games at the end of this month. I think we've got Peterborough away and Derby away at the start of April as well. Yeah. So that's like 4 of the top 6, 4 of the top teams in this division within about 6 weeks. So I think you'll know where Town will be at the end of that run, I think, and whether we're still thinking about top 2 automatics or whether we resign ourselves to a playoff run.
I think the key to it is if we can maintain some form, even if we have a couple of draws in sort of the next batch of matches, the next sort of 4 or 5, if we can maintain some form, and if we do genuinely end up in the playoffs, we need to be in positive momentum, not negative. Because if we go into it falling short, and then the results start going against us, that's not going to help us. We need to be going into it on a bit of a roll.
Because playoffs are almost always won by the team in the best form. You see that throughout history. It's the teams that come up that win it, not the ones that are dropping away.
Yeah, exactly. It's the ones who come into the bottom, the bottom playoff place. How many times have they gone up? They get their momentum, they put the effort in, they get into the playoffs, and then they go straight the way through. So as long as we can keep some momentum, I think that's key for us. But we've got honestly a cracking squad for this league. Those games really shouldn't be worrying us, really. But the Bolton and Barnsley ones are the ones I think potentially are going to cause us the most problems.
I think the other positives now is the midweek games are pretty much done between now and the end of the season. There's not too many left. So realistically, you think the squad shouldn't be as stretched as it has been at times throughout the season. And that is when you talk about the quality of players, and if they're all available, hopefully that could start really shining through in the last sort of couple of months of the season.
Yeah, definitely the big thing as well, boys. We got back-to-back wins for the first time since October.
After and 3 clean sheets in a row, I think, which getting back to that sort of basics of taking it, because that's what, when McKenna first took over, we went on an insane sort of clean sheet run. And I think getting back to that sort of fundamentals of the game, because this team will score goals. It's got so much quality through it. If you keep a clean sheet, we will win more games than we lose, because we've got the firepower to just nick one. I mean, at first half against MK Dons, I don't think we played that well, but Morsy shows that quality to get the goal. Yeah, second half we should have scored more, but I would back us to score in every game pretty much, because we've got that quality. So if you keep a clean sheet, well, then that's basically a game won if you get that to that point. So I think that's been a real bonus for the last sort of 3 games.
Definitely. Well then, boys, let's end the podcast looking ahead to Burton at Portman Road. Of course, the game is her game too, dedicated game as well. The whole weekend, as well as the women's fixture against Plymouth at the AJ Arena, Felixstowe is also her game too, dedicated game. Of course, a great system that they've set up at her game too. That it was launched back in 2021, back in May, for aims for women and girls of all ages to feel confident and safe sharing their opinions about football online. And of course, we attract the Girls Talk, where Blue Wilson and all Ipswich Town players as guests, and some other great people who have been involved in this podcast. Even Maddie Reeder, who's our ambassador, she did some great work with the football club. But they're just brilliant at celebrating her game too. And just opportunities in football. So, it's great. I think the players will be wearing the T-shirt. I think the women's team will be doing some stuff as well at Felixstowe. But yeah, Burton Albion, them boys. We've done our prediction already on that. But your thoughts on them as a whole, as you said, Simon, the informed team. But we're going to go into the unknown, because they are still 18th in League One. So they are still struggling. But your thoughts on this one.
Yeah, I mean, 2 sides that have become weirdly linked over the course of the season through Ghassan Hadmi and Corin Darby, who was on loan there earlier on in the season, wasn't he, before he got recalled and than out to Fleetwood. But I think we know. I know they're a new squad. I know there's been differences, but I would expect a lot of similar things that we've seen from them before. I mean, low block, keep men behind the ball, keep it tight, look to frustrate. I can't see them looking to play an open, expansive game. If they did, I'd be delighted because I think we'd win that game comfortably if they tried to do that to us. And it's one of those games where obviously you hope that the crowd can sort of really create that atmosphere because Burton, I mean, their ground is absolutely tiny. I think it's 7,000-8,000. So that will be it will be a big game for them and it will be a big day. So they will be up for it. So I think it's important that the crowd really make themselves heard. And I think ultimately our quality on the day should shine through. I don't think it'll be easy. I think probably maybe might have to wait a bit. We need the fans to not get frustrated by that. And I think ultimately we will win it by a couple of goals to 0.
Okay. And Steve, we mentioned it earlier about strikers. Who are going to start? George Hurst, Freddie Dapo. As you said, Freddie, for me, and I think everybody else out there, I'm sure yourself, he's a better starter. But George Hurst has played well in his last few weeks. Played really well against MK. Your thoughts on who's starting?
I probably would start Freddie. I think if you look at the way that Burton play and the attributes that Freddie has got, I think he's probably more suited to play against Burton. I think Hurst is technically, I think, he is a better player technically. I mean, he's played, he's a Premier League squad player, but I probably would play Freddie against Burton. I'm kind of on the same page as Simon. I think we'll probably win by a couple of goals, probably 2-0. The fact that we've come into it with 2 wins on the bounce, I'm just hoping the crowd give the players the lift. And if we don't score early, they don't let it show, because I think it will be only a matter of time before we do score against them. So, yeah, I mean, Gassan can't play because he's played for us already this season, so he's not going to be playing. So, and they have had a couple of changes in squad. They've brought a couple of players in, haven't they? I think they've brought in a lad from Charlton as well. So, be interesting to see. But I think we'll probably come out of that with a relatively comfortable 2-0.
Another clean sheet. Happy about that. Simon, where are you at in terms of any other players starting, not starting? Maybe is this a chance for Massimo to get start? Cameron Humphrey's done well, but maybe Mass comes in.
I think Massimo will start one of the next 2. I think he has to. I think Cam has done excellently since he's been in, but he does occasionally look a bit leggy because he's 19. He's not used to be playing this many minutes in this sort of intensity yet. So I think one of these next 2, we will see Massimo start. And I think he's deserved to start because he's been excellent from the bench, as we discussed previously. Whether it's this game or Accrington, I'm not that bothered about. I think, as I say, I think it'll be one of the 2. The back 5, I think, picks itself. I don't think there's any reason to change that. As we say, given 3 clean sheets in a row, why would you mess something that's clearly working? The debate about the striker, I think, is an interesting one, but ultimately I would probably go with Freddie for the reason Steve mentioned before. Because they're going to sit deep, you're going to look to feed balls into the feet rather than Hurst, who's a bit more mobile, to get that ball over the top. I think it'll be a game for him. And then Broadhead and Chaplin are absolute must-starts every game because they're our best 2 players for me. I think they offer the most week in, week out consistently. I mean, Chaplin's a top goal scorer, so barring injuries, they will play. And then obviously we discussed Wes Burns earlier. I think, again, Jackson, I think, should start one of the next 2, whether that's Saturday or Tuesday. I don't think matters too much, but I could see him definitely starting one of those 2 games.
Well, last time we played Burton at Porton Road, Caden Jackson started and scored in 42 seconds. So maybe that's the perfect game for him to start and start off really well. And we won that game, of course, 3-0 in the end. But there we go. I'm actually it's going to be a rare game I'm going to miss. I'm actually not going to be at the game at Porton Road. And now, no offense to Burton, I didn't go to the away fixture against Burton, and now I'm not going to be at the home fixture against Burton. I ain't got nothing against Burton.
In fact, you must be glad you missed the away game because it was hammering with rain, wasn't it? And the wind outside would have been an absolute nightmare.
Yeah, and of course, the game wasn't great, was it? I think we only just about beat Burton in that fixture when they were not doing well at all. So yeah,
might be a game for Marcus Harness. I mean, weirdly from the bench, obviously
Yeah.
former team, and he's got the goal earlier in the season.
Yeah.
I don't think we've seen the best of him recently, so maybe it's one for him to sort of find something in as well.
Definitely, and it's gonna be an interesting one. Another big crowd expected. I think Andy did a piece on the website. I think 500,000 of Town fans have been at Portland Road or just in general in the stadium, which is just incredible. And yeah, we've already had this conversation. League One, Town getting 20,000-30,000 fans in the stadium, and the away fans following, nearly 7,000 at MK. It's just incredible. And keep up, Town fans, keep the faith.
The crowd thing's an interesting one, isn't it? Because I was listening on the radio to the FA Cup matches, and I think Sheffield United were playing Spurs, and Sheffield United obviously did really well, and they were like, "Oh, it's a fantastic crowd. There's 28,500 here." I mean, we're getting more than that in League One against teams that maybe you would argue aren't at the top end. We're just getting fantastic crowds coming in, week out. So imagine what we would be doing. I mean, I know we're restricted by capacity of Portman Road, and if they do anything with that, they're not going to do anything over the close season to rapidly increase that. But our following at home and away, I mean, there was 7,000 nearly at MK Dons. How on earth that was 14,000 capacity? Like, that is bonkers. We were out. There was no way that was 14,000 on Saturday. No way in a million years. But it kind of struck me with the Sheffield United thing, say, top end championship team playing Spurs, Premier League, top six, and they get 29,000 and making a massive song and dance about it, and we're getting 29,000 playing, probably against Burton.
Yeah,
that's just crazy, absolutely crazy. So,
I mean, what a difference it makes from the McCarthy era, sort of us getting about 12, 13,000.
Yeah.
And that was like the official capacity. And you're thinking, there's not this many here. There's absolutely no way.
Wasn't it, under McCarthy at the end? I mean, at the start, he did a good job, but at the end, the wheels fell off that one, big style. But yeah. Just a massive shout out to the fans, really, for turning up week in, week out, because it's not cheap to go. People are going and they're spending their money and they're supporting the team. So long may that may continue. Yeah,
definitely. One thing I've been loving is seeing some first-time fans as well. The queue for the certificates and just seeing that. And, of course, more with this being her game too weekend, I'm sure there'll be more, Town girl supporters and just, families just getting together and wanting to go. And, playing teams like Burton, we had Forest Green, the previous week, there's 24,000, there to see Forest Green Rovers. As you said, Sheffield United had Spurs. So, we're getting, fans are happy to turn up when we're playing those sort of teams. So keep the faith, everyone, and well done for the great support. I think that's it for the Fan Social this week. But as always, Simon, Steve, any other business? Simon, it's been a pleasure having you back on. Anything you want to plug or mention, or take it away?
No other business from me. Appreciate the chat. It's always good to discuss Ipswich, my favourite subject. Yeah. So the thing I'll say is shout out to Hospital Radio. So I do the radio commentary for them, and so if you're in hospital and listening to us, we're pleased to have you.
Top man, Simon. And over to you then, Steve, our correspondent in Devon, keeping the Plymouth fans maybe a little level after a little wobble recently. But over to you, Steve. Any other business?
No other business. Nothing to plug. Nothing to promote. Go to Ginger Pickle for all your SEO stuff. Go if you want your nuts cut. Go to Manscaped. Do it all. But no, nothing else from me apart from that.
Top man, doing the sponsor plug before me, so that is perfect. Okay. You're the man for that. Use code KOA, you get 20% off and free delivery with Manscaped. That is it for another Fan Social. Thanks for tuning in. As I said, if you want to get involved and get your voice heard, contact me, Ross Media UK on Twitter. 2 games this weekend, of course. The men at home to Burton at Portland Road, and of course the Ipswich Town women have got Plymouth Argyle. Plymouth Argyle's women's team is not as high flying as the men, but it should be a good game at AJ Arena. If you're free and want to have a double header of a weekend, go and support both games. Of course, her game, 2 dedicated weekends. Thanks again for watching. Of course, follow us on all the Kings of Anglia. Follow Steve and Simon on Twitter as well, and subscribe if you haven't already. Bye for now. Thanks again.